Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gills, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee?
I don't drink coffee.
You sure? It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee?
I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it.
Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
There we are. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to the morning grind. Welcome. It is so good to see everybody. Today, I'm just warning you, I think I'm going to stop a little bit early today. I've got a family gathering I have got to get to, and it's a little bit of a drive, and I always show up late because, which is if I leave at after 10:30 when the morning grind normally ends. So I may just go for about 30 minutes. My brother's birthday today, but I got a bit of a drive, so maybe an uncharacteristically short, or will be an uncharacteristically short morning grind. But I hope you are all well. I see Zero the Blade here. Good morning. And Toadstool Hollow. Oh, Robert does not seem like he is having a good morning. Nothing works except YouTube. Well, at least YouTube works. Morning grind, the only thing being ground on is my patience. Well, I'm sorry. I am sorry. At least you're here. Good morning, James. And good morning, Grashin. So, welcome to this Saturday edition, Grashin. It is good to see you. Gashrin. Good to see you this morning. Welcome to the morning grind. So today I thought that we would take a look at this book right here. I'll go ahead and put it on screen. The Dungeon Builder's Guidebook, we did take a look at the World Builders Guidebook on the Morning Grind a while back ago. It's been a little while now. One of the World Building Wednesdays. Oh, RPG with DBJ. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. Welcome. Good to see you again. Very glad to have you here. So we did look at that book a while back ago, and we probably should return to it. But I was working on a project and have been working on a project on the evening with some kind of a different kind of software development. I know there are tons of projects going on, but one of them was involving some type of digital stuff, and actually it involved dungeon building. And so I was like, you know what? There was this book that was the Dungeon Builder's Guidebook. I wonder if it was any good. We should at least review it. And so I thought, hey, we should do it here on the Morning Grind. I can't remember if I had this one or not. I can't remember. I know I had the World Building Guidebook in physical copy. I don't remember if I had the Dungeon Builder's Guidebook in physical copy or not. I kind of remember it. I kind of don't. So I'm not sure. I've always thought this picture was kind of weird here. This weird pink umbrella that this guy is sitting under. Like, what's with this pink umbrella? But all right, before we go, well, let's see here. Robert says, nothing coffee and a cigarette and a stream can't resolve. Hey, well, let's take a sip of the coffee. I've got just a little bit more drink left right here. So let's breathe, and then we'll take a sip of our favorite beverage here together. So 2 breaths, deep inhale, complete exhale, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage this morning. There we go. There we go. That was for you, Robert. Maybe that helps. Okay. So let's go in. Let's jump in here for, I don't know, maybe another 25 minutes or something like that. And then we can at least figure out what's in here. And if we need to, then we can always come back for different days. I like the format of getting into one thing and then just going all the way through it instead of jumping around. We'd been jumping around, but hey, for about the first 3 months of the show. But hey, we can change things up. I did notice this was written by Bruce R. Cordell. And of course, Bruce R. Cordell wrote a whole bunch of different adventures that we used to play quite a bit. Like I've joked that Bruce R. Cordell has killed a number of my heroes, or our heroes in general, at our table. So has anybody used this one? Was this one that people put to good use? So Bruce R. Cordell knows how to write adventures and dungeons that will kill you. So here is, I guess, his guide, Dungeon Builder's Guidebook. You're probably wondering, is this guidebook for me? In a word, yes. Dungeon Builder's Guidebook assembles tried and true dungeon building advice, approaches, and tactics gathered over many years. The suggestions and samples in this book are an invaluable resource for initiating and fleshing out the ruins, mines, caverns, and tombs of your imagination. What if you already design your own dungeons? Though the advice and tips in here may be old news to you, even the most experienced dungeon masters is sometimes strapped for time and inspiration. The Dungeon Builder Guidebook is perfect for generating the dungeon hook you need at a moment's notice, the goblin warrior the PCs accidentally stumble upon, or the pocket dimension you did not get a chance to detail. Hey, Jason. Good morning. The Dungeon Builder's Guidebook contains the following features: basic pointers and advice on building dungeons, permutations that provide ways to twist your dungeon in exciting ways, 6 distinct dungeon types, each accompanied by a property and encounter tables to help you flesh out your dungeon. I'm interested in that, the different dungeon types. And then also, I do remember this. That's why I can't remember if I had a copy or not. A collection of 78 geomorphs that you can photocopy, trace, or freehand onto your own maps. A trap architect, a detailed process for generating lethal traps. The Auto Dungeon Engine, a series of tables that allow you to create a dungeon by attaching random geomorphs together, forming unique dungeons every time. The Dungeon Builder's Guidebook follows and complements the World Builder's Guidebook, focusing on specific sites rather than global design. Okay, cool. So let's take an overview of our table of contents and see what is in here. Hey, Zero Theory. Good morning. Chapter 1. So we've got Introduction, Dungeon Building Lore. Part 2, Applied Dungeon Conception. Part 3, Dungeon Types. Part 4, Permutations. Part 5, Traps. Part 6, Auto Dungeon Engine. Chapter 2, oh, that was just chapter 1. Chapter 2 was dungeon examples. Oh, only 2 chapters. Okay. Several parts, but 2 chapters. It says the auto dungeon engine was inspired by and expanded from Appendix A random dungeon generation, and the trap architect was inspired and expanded from Appendix G and H traps and tricks, both in the original Dungeon Master's Guide by Gary Gygax. In conjunction by Gary Gygax, David Arneson et al. In conjunction with a suggestion Ed Stark made regarding how a dungeon by flowchart might work, even though I ended up not using his flowchart. So, part 4, Permutations, was inspired by an observation made by Monty Cook concerning what makes a dungeon appealing to him. I took the ball and ran with it. I was going to say that I remembered that there was some random dungeon generation in the DMG, and I was just looking at, I think it was the 5th edition. For some reason, I don't look at the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide all that much. But I noticed that there was random dungeon generation tables in there. But then I remembered this, and I thought that maybe, of course, that's for 5th edition. This is for AD&D. But I thought that since this was a whole book dedicated to the subject, it might actually have more comprehensive rules and guides for the generation of the dungeon. Oh, we have a quote from Ursula K. Le Guin here from the Tombs of Atuan. Down underground, nothing ran straight. All the tunnels curved, split, rejoined, branched, interlaced, looped, and traced elaborate routes that ended where they began. For there was no beginning, no end. One could go on and go and still get nowhere, for there was nowhere to get to. There was no center, no heart of the maze. Once the door was locked, there was no end to it. No direction was right. I remember reading that book a long time ago. Jason says, AD&D was fun. I remember Thaco and being able to split up ability scores such that Charisma 17 could be Charisma Leadership 19, Charisma Personality 17, something like that. Man, I barely remember that. I don't think we played with the split like that, but I do remember it. Was that in Skills and Powers? There was some book with additional rules in that. It might have been Skills and Powers. You could just adjust the sub abilities if you wanted to. Zero Theory says, Heath, have you looked into this newer way of making random dungeons called cyclic dungeon generation? It designs the story, then maps emerge from that. It's supposed to make more cohesive dungeons. I have not. Cyclic dungeon generation? Let me look that up real quick. Cyclic dungeon generation on itch. This says cyclic dungeon generation is the name given to the level creation algorithm in Joris Dorman's 2017 roguelike Unexplored. Taking inspiration from games like The Legend of Zelda, this algorithm generates dungeons by composing together cycles, circular loops of linked dungeon rooms designed to create a specific flow of gameplay. There are several types of cycles that can be used to construct a dungeon, such as a lock and key or hidden shortcut. By nesting different types of cycles, a dungeon can be generated that feels more like a human being intentionally designed it rather than a purely random scattering of chambers. This document attempts to adapt Unexplored Cyclic's dungeon generation algorithm to a process that can be used quickly to create engaging non-linear dungeons for tabletop role-playing games. This document includes an explanation of cyclic dungeon generation and a process of randomly generating a dungeon from a set of 12 cycles. A step-by-step example of using the cyclic dungeon to generate an adventure called The Tomb Under the Tree, a simple but perilous adventure, The Tomb Under the Tree, designed for use with old-school essentials but easily adapted to other games. I'm going to put this over here. I started rebuilding my notes on topics to cover here. So this is cyclic dungeon generation. This does seem like something I want to look at. Cyclic dungeon generation. Okay, that seems like it needs to be its own dedicated topic here on the Morning Grind. And if you're just coming in, we're going to have an uncharacteristically short morning grind today because it's my brother's birthday. I got a family gathering and I got a drive I got to make. So we're not going to go too long today. But thank you very much for that, Zero Theory. This is why I love the interactive shows. Thank you for pointing that out. That does seem like something we definitely need to look at. Tomocrat, hello, good morning. Jason says, I'm into crafting dungeons right now, so today's topic is perfect. Excellent. So, probably a lot of dungeon generation going on with everybody. Okay, so let's see what's in this. So, introduction. What is a dungeon? We probably basically know what that is. How to use this. Okay, we already looked at that. Okay, so part 1 contains several atmosphere enhancements, philosophies, and techniques of dungeon creation that can prove useful in constructing any dungeon setting. If you are not creating a completely new dungeon, a perusal of these points may bring to light some interesting possibilities for already existing settings. Advice for applying these formulae to actual dungeon creation appears in part 3. Okay, so what is our philosophy of dungeon creation? Okay. For ease of reference, the philosophies presented below focus mostly on a single aspect of dungeon building and can be utilized concurrently. Okay, so the different things to think about. Ecology. Now, this is a big one, of course. That was near, Tomocrat says that was near the end of TSR. It must have been late. I hadn't thought about that in a long time. So where do the monsters that live in a dungeon get their food when not munching on adventurers? Such creatures would quickly perish in closed-off spaces without access to food, like locking the manticore in the dungeon, in the room with treasure. Oh, yeah, right. For example, the classic monster locked in a treasure chamber is not necessarily realistic, although it may be fun. In most cases, an adventuring party breaks into the sealed chamber guarded by a monster would find a treasure and associated pile of bones. Gold and jewelry is not normally an adequate source of nutrition, unless, of course, it's something like a elemental or something like that. So, realistically portraying the ecological interaction within a dungeon setting requires you to consider the dietary needs of the creatures living therein and access to unrestricted food sources. For example, a dungeon setting that opens to the surface will provide ample opportunities for creatures to forage in the world. Okay. In a fantasy setting, we can certainly have plants, molds, fungi, nutrients in the soil. Yep. Okay. Fun versus... So the different philosophies it says, or one things that it wants to point out, are ecology, cohesiveness. Many dungeons call for monsters of different species to dwell in the same location. This brings up the question, how do these monsters interact with each other? Also, reasonability. Another simple litmus test for dungeon building is that of reasonability. Does the proposed dungeon fit the proposed antagonist? Let's see. Battle Zoo, which also I don't know much about. Battle Zoo has made it that you can generate a dungeon as your PC. Huh. That sounds weird. I'll have to look at that. They were talking about that. That's the role. That's done by the Roll for Combat people, right? Zero Theory says, I often make heavy use of undead. Oh, yeah, undead also is good for this. Undead in dungeons just because they can be easily reasoned away that they were there for years and not need an ecology. Yeah, undead are good for that as well. Skeletons, zombies walking around. Well, or more intelligent undead. Classic design. In the early years of fantasy role-playing, dungeons incorporated incredible sizes and complexity. Such underground complexes often included more than a dozen distinct levels, each one boasting several sub-levels and hundreds of rooms. This classic design worries less about realism and more about providing a site suitable for years of constant exploration, fun, and looting by the PCs. See fun versus realism below. Accordingly, as the characters delve deeper, the monsters become nastier and the treasures larger. This setup presents the PCs with mounting challenges to mount their increasing power levels. It also gives you the luxury of designing deeper levels as the PCs progress. But then we also have fun versus realism. When designing dungeon encounters, balancing plot concerns and realism is important. Rewards versus effort. Oh, by the way, I was sent the Kobold's Guide to Dungeons. And I thought it was going to be like this. So they did send me that to review. I'm going to review it. We're going to take a look at it soon. I opened it up, though, and it was not like the geomorphs and things like that. It was more like essays on essays and philosophies on dungeon building. So it may be very much like the start of this. So we're going to look at that. I was going to look at that first, actually, but then I realized it was more like essays. But we're going to look at that. I do have it. Zero the Blade says, wouldn't the surrounding area of the dungeon affect what monsters will survive there with limited food? So not everything with limited food, so not everything being undead. Wouldn't the surrounding area of the dungeon affect what monsters will survive there with limited food? So not everything. Yeah, I think it would. Yeah. It doesn't have to be undead, but you can lock undead away. If you get the or the mummy's tomb or something like that, or the ancient Egyptians' tomb or something like that. They're being undead, and there makes sense. Reward versus effort. Often DMs pile up treasure in their dungeons in an effort to please the players. More often than not, however, this merely leads to further dissatisfaction. If you go way overboard in handing out the goodies, the characters soon become burdened with a plethora of cash and magic, eroding the player's interest in the campaign. This is too easy. The term Monty Hall was coined long ago to describe campaigns guilty of such largesse. So we get an example here. Heroes should receive rewards when they win out over incredible odds, spend months mapping a maze, or otherwise successfully complete a scenario. Players need not see tangible benefits as a result of their efforts. Or players need to see tangible benefits as a result of their efforts, or their interest wanes. Thinking about monsters. And monsters using the treasures and things like that inside. Okay, techniques for atmosphere. Certain sample techniques in dungeon designs can go a long way to provide tense, scary, or exciting atmosphere. Your players long reminisce about those dungeons where the encounters seem particularly immediate and real. So, rub of the real. Whenever possible, utilize your own real-life experiences to describe similar situations. Okay. The psychology of implication. Often the implication of great danger is sometimes better than the immediate threat itself. The dread the players experience when speculating what could possibly be making the unearthly cries emanating from the cavern ahead is invaluable. Okay. Applied dungeon conception. Am I going to get to roll for something right here? Oh, I am. Where's some dice? We got a few more minutes. Where's some dice? Okay, so this part contains various approaches to initial dungeon conceptualization. What's the purpose of this structure? What are the needs of the builders? Why did they create this? Determining a dungeon approach. So this is table 1 approaches. So what's the approach? D20. Abandoned site, academy, animal lair, base camp, colony, community, death trap, entertainment site. I rolled a 9, which is hermitage. Oh, that's interesting. So a hermitage, holy individuals, sages, wizards, and other entities of great age or power sometimes grow impatient or tired of daily contact with civilization, leaving to establish an isolated abode far from the concerns of everyday life. Such abodes are difficult to find and dangerous once discovered. A being that has devoted so much energy to remain hidden does not normally welcome uninvited guests. Such intruders usually seek those hermits for the answer to a riddle, to help them with a problem, or to retrieve some ancient relic said to be in the keeping of the recluse. Oh, John. Hey, John. Welcome. John says, I still play and DM AD&D today. Can't be beat, in my opinion. Yeah, the Hermitage actually sounds pretty cool. Daniel says, sounds like my kind of people. Yeah, especially after going through Dark Sun, I was like, oh, I was wondering if I still want to create another AD&D character because it's been a while, just for the heck of it. Because some people may want to watch anyway. Some people have probably never seen that. So what was that like? But that did kind of make me want to play that again, like as a one-shot or something like that, at least. Dungeon types. Each dungeon type presented in this section includes a general description, a list of common features, property, and encounter tables. So, okay, so we got this dungeon type here. So this is one of the things I was looking at. So they say the different types. This is kind of like a veneer, I suppose, put over the types. So we've got some type of hermitage that we roll on a d6. And I got to, castle, pretty, hermit castle. So 1 is aerial. 2 is castle. 3 is interdimensional. 4 is mine or natural cavern. 5 is ruin or tomb. And 6 is underwater. Okay, so as you probably noticed, the Dungeon Builder's Guidebook includes a separate book of maps broken down into different geomorphs. Let's see if that's in the back here. Okay, here are the geomorphs. And there's actually a lot more to these geomorphs than I thought. So, my natural cavern founding geomorph. Aerial founding geomorph cross-sectional view. Castle founding geomorph. Ruin tomb founding geomorph. See, I think I must have had this book or something because I thought that this was going to be a lot more modular. But these geomorphs are large chunks. Underwater founding geomorph. That makes me think of the Shahagin. Interdimensional founding geomorph. Mine and cavern geomorphs. I mean, there's a lot to explore in any one of these geomorphs. So these puzzle pieces are supposed to be going to other puzzle pieces. Mine natural cavern geomorph. Cross-section view. Natural cavern. What is that? Mine natural cavern focus. Interdimensional focus. A bunch of weird stuff for the interdimensional stuff. So, oh, well, aerial. Okay, so that doesn't, well, I guess that's kind of like it's up in the clouds. Well, here's clouds, but then this looks like it's also up the side of some type of mountain. I was seeing on Instagram somebody who was doing the vertical dungeons. That's kind of what that reminds me of. Hey, Charlie. I've been looking at different OSR stuff. I'm going to, in fact, I have that on my list of things to look at. I've got several of those on the list to look at. I was looking at Knave the other night. Castle geomorph, we'll have to go over that one on the morning grind as well. So castle geomorphs, like that's a lot of castle to be part of a geomorph. Although I suppose that means that you can generate it faster. You're not trying to go room by room. Ruin or tomb. Ruin tomb geomorph. Could probably, instead of, I can't imagine trying to trace all of this. It seems like it would be a lot to trace. But I suppose you could photocopy and cut them out. But doing it in Photoshop or something like that would probably be easier today. Underwater geomorph. Underwater geomorph. Sunken ship in fissure. Cross-sectional underwater geomorph. Okay, we are coming up. I told people at the very beginning here, so this is interesting. We're still going to have to go a little bit further. I want to go deeper into this. So I guess we have more time to look at this. So, because I want to know, underwater races, ecological considerations. So I think there's going to be some good information in here. and information on traps. Okay, so we're going to continue with that. But I was telling everybody at the start here, this is my brother's birthday, and I've got a family gathering that I've got to make a drive for. So I'm going to cut the morning grind short today. Uncharacteristic, but hey, I wanted to be sure that we did the morning grind. I want to do the morning grind. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I will see everybody in the morning at 9:30 in the morning. Maybe we'll continue with this book. Maybe we'll go on to something else. We'll see. Probably we'll continue with this. But I hope that everybody has a great day. I'm going to go to my brother's birthday party. So bye, everybody. I will see you in the morning. Hopefully this was enough. Hopefully everybody had a good time. Everybody, have a great day. Be productive, be creative, and grind on.